"You don't belong in first class." The words landed like a slap, echoing down the narrow aisle of the aircraft. A man in a white shirt stood tall, though both his arms were pinned, one gripped by a uniformed security officer, the other seized by a flight attendant clutching a tablet like a shield. Behind him, the captain loomed silent, lips tight, gaze cold. Passengers leaned into the aisle, drawn by the tension spilling like smoke through the cabin. "You heard me," the officer barked, squeezing tighter. "I need you to move. Now." The attendant's voice was quieter but sharper, slicing through the recycled air. "You have 45 minutes before this becomes a bigger problem. Step aside." Phones lifted. A red recording light blinked from row 7. A whisper slipped out from somewhere in the back. "Why are they treating him like that?" He showed his ticket. The man in white didn't struggle. He didn't shout. He simply looked forward, jaw set, eyes unwavering. His silence didn't read as fear, it radiated something else. Patience, defiance, power, hidden but alive. This wasn't the first time he had been told he didn't belong. At 23, a bank clerk froze his account and muttered, "Not your kind of money." At 30, a hotel manager took his card and sneered, "This can't be yours. Dell." And now, at 47, he stood in an airplane cabin, accused of fraud for daring to sit in the seat he had paid for. Same words, same tone, same insult wrapped in policy. The officer shook him once more, impatience rising. "Sir, cooperate. Don't make this harder." Gasps rippled again. A mother covered her daughter's ears. A businessman frowned, whispering, "He hasn't even raised his voice." But the man remained still, grounded as if the floor itself anchored him. And in that silence, passengers began to realize this wasn't just a scene. It was a story they had seen before, different faces, same prejudice. Then came the sting. The flight attendant, voice dripping disdain, said it for everyone to hear. "First class isn't for people like you." The air cracked. A hush swept through the rows. Every eye turned toward him, waiting to see if he would break. He didn't. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Marcus Carter. His lips parted just enough for a reply, calm but edged like steel. "You think I don't belong? Then ask yourself, why do you?" The cabin froze. And in that instant, the storm had already begun. Marcus Carter didn't look like anyone's idea of a CEO that night. No tailored suit, no gleaming Rolex, no entourage trailing behind with hushed instructions. Just a white button-down shirt, dark jeans, and quiet eyes that carried more storms than the sky outside Chicago O'Hare. And that was intentional. He had paid in full for seat, 2 amperes first class, premium cabin, champagne already chilling in the galley. His name wasn't hidden, it was right there on the manifest, same as any other passenger. But Marcus wasn't here simply to fly to Los Angeles. He was testing something far heavier than turbulence. For months, anonymous complaints had stacked up across social media about Horizon Airlines. Stories of passengers profiled at the gate. Travelers shuffled to the back of the plane based on clothes, on accents, on skin. PR brushed them off as exaggerations. But Marcus knew patterns when he saw them. He built empires by spotting cracks others ignored. And when those cracks ran through the very airline where he held a 25% stake, he decided to walk straight into them. So he stripped away every sign of wealth. No boardroom armor, no polished veneer. Just another man in economy's shadow, holding a boarding pass to first class. Would they treat him like a client or a trespasser? The answer came before the plane even left the gate. As he slid into seat 2 amperes, the whispers started. A flight attendant glanced once, then twice, eyes narrowing like his very presence dented the leather. She didn't even scan the pass. She simply leaned toward the purser and muttered, "Not his seat." Minutes later, security arrived. Marcus had expected it. He had lived it. At 25, dressed in slacks for his first real estate deal, a broker had laughed in his face. "Come back when you can afford the down payment." He came back with enough to buy the building. At 33, in a hotel lobby, a clerk had eyed his platinum card like it was counterfeit. "This can't be you." It was. He owned the brand 3 years later. Now, at 47, on an aircraft partly financed by his own signature, the cycle had returned. Same script, same stage, different actors. Phones glowed from every row. Some passengers frowned, others filmed. A whisper passed down the aisle like static. Why does he look so calm? Because Marcus Carter had learned long ago, when the world questions your place, calm is the loudest weapon you can wield. The hum of the cabin dimmed as the aisle filled with uniforms. Nicole, the lead flight attendant, moved first, heels clicking, tablet clutched like a verdict waiting to be read. Her smile wasn't service. It was suspicion. "Sir, this seat has been reassigned," she announced loud enough for rows 3 through 8 to hear. No check, no scan, just a decree. Marcus kept still, his boarding pass resting on the tray table, paid in full, verified at the gate. Yet Nicole didn't even glance at it. Instead, she tilted her head toward the couple waiting by the curtain, Richard and Laura Bennett, champagne glasses in hand, platinum tags swinging like proof of royalty. "They are our priority guests," Nicole added, her voice sharp as glass. The Bennetts smirked. Richard muttered just loud enough. Knew it wasn't his seat. From behind, Brian, a younger attendant with too much swagger for his Navy uniform, chuckled. "Yeah, man, economy's more your style. You lost?" Phones rose higher. A ripple of discontent threaded through the cabin. Marcus remained still, hands folded, breath measured. But Nicole's irritation deepened with every second he didn't move. She leaned in, eyes narrowed. "Don't make this harder. Cooperate or security will remove you." Right on cue, Linda, the onboard security officer, stepped forward. Mid-30s, hand resting near her belt as if compliance could be commanded with posture alone. "Sir, I'm giving you one warning. Vacate the seat, or you'll be escorted off this flight." Gasps floated down the aisle. A woman in row 4 whispered, "But his ticket scanned green." Her seatmate, already filming, muttered back, "They don't care." Nicole snapped toward them. "Passengers, stay out of this. Airline protocol is being followed." Protocol. That word echoed, heavy, weaponized. Marcus exhaled slowly. His silence was a mirror, reflecting every ounce of bias thrown at him. He didn't flinch when Brian laughed again, didn't move when Linda's grip hovered inches from his shoulder. Then Nicole delivered the insult raw, stripped of pretense. "First class isn't for people like you." The cabin froze. Every eye turned, every phone lifted higher. Marcus blinked once, steady. He had heard it before in banks, in hotels, in offices where doors were shut to keep men like him out. Same words, same poison, different stage. But this time the audience wasn't silent. A young trainee attendant near the galley, Mia, swallowed hard, her voice trembling as she spoke up. I saw his ticket. It's real." Nicole whipped around, fury sparking. "Stay out of this, Mia. Trainees don't interfere." Yet the words had already cracked the air. Passengers stirred. Murmurs grew. Someone said it loud enough for the recording to catch. "They're lying." And for the first time, the crew realized control of the cabin was slipping one heartbeat at a time. Marcus didn't rise. He didn't shout. He didn't even turn his head when Nicole's words, "First class isn't for people like you," hung in the air like smoke that refused to clear. Instead, he lowered his gaze to the boarding pass lying torn across the tray table. The perforated edge curled upward, paper split by someone else's arrogance. With slow precision, he straightened the halves side by side, as if reminding the cabin that what was destroyed could still be read. "Seat 2 amperes, Marcus Carter." His silence was heavy, deliberate. Brian chuckled again, louder this time. "Guess he can't even talk for himself." The officer beside him tightened her grip on his shoulder. "Sir, refusal to comply is grounds for removal." Her hand hovered near her belt, flashing the possibility of handcuffs. Phones lifted higher. A woman whispered, "He hasn't done anything." Another voice answered, "That's the point." Marcus breathed once, deep and measured, not a tremor in his frame, not a flinch in his jaw. He sat as if the leather seat had grown roots, anchoring him against the storm circling above. It wasn't weakness, it was memory. He remembered 20 years earlier, standing in a loan office with perfect collateral, told he was too risky. He remembered the lobby in Atlanta where he slept in his car because the hotel clerk decided his sweatpants didn't belong to a guest. He remembered every door that closed without reason except the shade of his skin. Silence had saved him then. Silence had forced men to overplay their hand. And tonight, it would again. Nicole bent closer, her voice sharpened into a blade. "This is your last warning. Step out before we drag you out." Marcus lifted his eyes, finally calm, steady, cutting straight through hers. But he said nothing. The cabin reacted for him. Murmurs swelled into words, words into protest. He paid for that seat. He showed his ID. This isn't right. Tool. A teenager from row 8 muttered to his phone. They're trying to throw out the CEO, watch this. He didn't know yet. Not fully, but the seed of rumor was already sprouting in the digital air. Mia, the trainee who had dared to speak earlier, shifted nervously near the galley. Her lips parted like she wanted to say more, but Nicole's glare pinned her silent. Still, Marcus didn't move, didn't shout, didn't plead. Because sometimes the most powerful answer isn't a roar. It's a man sitting quietly in the seat he earned, refusing to vanish. The first flash came from row 6. A slim phone, angled just above the headrest, its red dot glowing. Then another, 2 rows back. Within seconds, the aisle was dotted with lenses, small, unblinking eyes capturing every breath of the standoff. Record this, a man whispered to his wife, shoving his phone higher. People need to see it. A teenager leaned into the aisle, streaming live to his followers. We're on Horizon Flight 227, and this is insane. They're trying to drag a black man out of first class. He has a ticket. His voice cracked, not from fear, but from disbelief. The murmurs grew louder. He paid for that seat. They didn't even scan it. What are they doing? Nicole straightened, her polished facade cracking. Phones down, please. Filming is against airline policy. But no one obeyed. If anything, more phones rose. Passengers leaned forward, some standing in the aisle to catch a better view. The cabin had shifted. It wasn't a flight anymore. It was a theater of truth. And Marcus sat at its center. The security officer clenched her jaw. Sir, this is escalating. Move now. Still, Marcus didn't move. He let the silence stretch, forcing the cameras to drink in every second. His eyes remained steady, his hands folded, a portrait of composure framed against chaos. From the back of the cabin, a soft but firm voice broke through. Excuse me, said an older woman clutching a carry-on, her accent thick with Midwest steel. I saw him board. His pass beeped green. You're lying. Nicole froze, her authority wobbling under the weight of the statement. Brian scoffed, rolling his eyes. Lady, stay out of this. But the woman didn't shrink. She raised her phone higher, hands steady. I've been flying this airline 20 years. This, she gestured toward Marcus's wrong. Gasps rippled again. The cabin wasn't just watching anymore. It was siding. Mia, the trainee at the galley, shifted once more. Her lips trembled, but courage pushed words out anyway. She's right. His ticket is valid. I checked it myself. Nicole spun, fury bursting in her voice. Mia, enough. Say another word and you'll regret it. But the damage was done. 2 voices had already pierced the script. 2 witnesses had refused silence. And the cameras kept rolling, swallowing every frame. Marcus's silence became thunder. He didn't need to argue. The world was arguing for him now. Somewhere near the back, a man muttered into his live stream, Mark my words, this is going viral. And in that moment, the cabin ceased being Horizon Airlines' domain. It belonged to the crowd, to the witnesses, to the truth playing out in real time. The aisle trembled with footsteps heavier than heels. A new figure appeared from behind the curtain, a man in his 50s, navy blazer pressed sharp silver wings pinned above his pocket. Harold Jennings, the in-flight manager. His presence carried weight, but not respect. It was arrogance draped in authority. What's happening here? His eyes swept the cabin, but landed on Marcus like a verdict already written. Nicole rushed to his side, voice quick and eager. Unauthorized passenger in first class, sir. Refusing to move. Hamzer. Gasps shot through the rows. A dozen phones tilted upward. Harold didn't flinch. He leaned down, close enough for only Marcus and the cameras to hear. You're embarrassing yourself, he hissed. This seat isn't for you. It never was. Then, louder, to the crowd, ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the disturbance. This man is not a first-class passenger. He is attempting to occupy a seat that doesn't belong to him. Boos erupted not from Marcus, but from the passengers. A woman near the front shouted, That's a lie! We saw his ticket! Others murmured, voices colliding with outrage. Harold's smile was tight, rehearsed. Please, everyone remain calm. Security will resolve this. Linda, the officer, took a step closer, hand firm on Marcus's shoulder. The camera zoomed. Brian, still smirking, added fuel. Should have known. Happens all the time. People like him try to slip in, think no one will notice. Those words, people like him, cracked across the cabin like thunder. Phones rose higher, passengers whispering fiercely. The live stream counter jumped from dozens to hundreds. Marcus didn't speak. His silence was a mirror, reflecting their venom back at them. His chest rose and fell, calm, deliberate. But others filled the void. The older woman with the carry-on stood again. Stop lying. We saw the boarding pass. Seat 2 Amperes. His name was on it. Harold snapped at her, mask slipping. Ma'am, if you continue to disrupt this cabin, you will be removed as well. The threat hung, ugly and raw. Passengers stirred, murmurs sharpening into anger. A teenager's voice rang out from row 8, loud and unfiltered. This is racist. That's all it is. Harold froze for a fraction too long. Cameras devoured the pause. Nicole's face drained pale. Brian's grin faltered. But the officer pressed harder, leaning close to Marcus's ear. Last chance. Stand up, or you'll be off this plane. Aibo. Phone zoomed tighter. The crowd leaned in. The cabin had become a stage, every insult echoing louder, every silence cutting deeper, and Marcus Carter remained still, the calm center of a storm spinning wildly out of the crew's control. The cabin was already electric when Harold snapped his fingers at Nicole. Give me the pass, he ordered. She snatched the torn halves from Marcus's tray table with a jerk, holding them like evidence of a crime. Pathetic, Harold muttered. Then, with deliberate slowness, he ripped what remained into confetti. Tiny white shreds drifted onto Marcus's lap, a snowfall of arrogance. Gasps echoed through the rows, sharp, collective, disbelieving. He just destroyed his ticket, someone shouted. Phones zoomed closer, recording every shred. Marcus didn't move. His eyes followed the paper as it fell, but his face was stone, unbroken. Brian, emboldened by Harold's gesture, leaned in with a smirk. Guess you're out of luck, man. No pass, no seat. Time to march back to coach where you belong. The cruelty wasn't subtle anymore. It was performance. Linda, the officer, clamped her hand tighter around Marcus's arm, nails pressing through fabric. Up. Now, don't make me drag you. Her voice cracked like a whip, meant not just for Marcus but for the cameras capturing her authority in full view. Passengers erupted. This is theft, one man barked. That's assault, another added. From the back, the teenager's live stream picked up a chorus, comments flying, hearts pulsing across the screen. Unreal. Keep filming. Sue them. Harold turned toward the cabin, his voice raised, his tone official. Ladies and gentlemen, please ignore the disruption. This individual attempted to fraudulently occupy first class. Airline policy is clear. Security will remove him immediately. But the audience wasn't buying it. Not this time. A woman near row 4 yelled, "Fraudulent? He showed the boarding pass. We all saw it." Marcus still hadn't said a word. Not a plea, not a defense. He let the storm roar around him, his silence steady as an anchor. Nicole's voice cracked as she joined Harold's charade. "Sir, you are holding up the flight. Step out before you cause more embarrassment for yourself." And then came the shove. Linda tugged his arm hard, jerking him halfway out of the seat. The cabin gasped as his body rocked forward, restrained but unmoved. The older woman cried out, "Stop! You can't treat him like that!" Her phone trembled in her hand, lens capturing every second. Harold's voice thundered, desperate for control. "Escort him out, now!" The aisle narrowed with the weight of decision. The crew pressed in, the passengers pressed record. And Marcus Carter sat at the eye of the storm, silent, unyielding, while the entire plane bore witness to a humiliation that would not end the way they expected. Linda's grip tightened, yanking Marcus half out of the seat. Harold barked, "Get him off this plane!" Nicole hovered close, her voice cracking with false authority. "Sir, this is your final warning." The cabin boiled with noisy protests, gasps, the click of cameras firing non-stop. For the first time, a chant stirred from the back. "Let him stay! Let him stay!" Marcus exhaled once, a calm breath cutting through the chaos. Then, without raising his voice, without even looking at the hands clutching him, he tilted his head slightly and spoke 4 quiet words into the air. "Rachel, log everything. Now." It was almost too soft to hear, but the Bluetooth bud in his ear caught it. A beat later, a woman's voice rang clear, steady, amplified just enough for those nearest to pick up. "Understood, time-stamped. The board is already watching. Phones snapped toward him, whispers shot like sparks. Did he say board? What board? Harold frowned, confusion breaking his mask. Who are you talking to? Marcus didn't answer. He tapped the side of his watch once. A faint vibration buzzed back a signal, a trigger. Rachel's voice again, firmer this time. Protocol active. Incident filed. Live sync engaged. Nicole's face drained pale. What does that mean? Marcus finally turned his eyes, calm and unshaken, toward the crew encircling him. His voice cut low, each syllable deliberate. It means every second of what you're doing is being recorded on systems you don't control. Gasps rolled through the rows. A man muttered into his phone, "Oh, this is bigger than it looks." Linda's grip faltered for the first time. Harold stiffened, snapping, "Empty threats. We make the rules on this aircraft." But Marcus only leaned back into the seat. He refused to surrender, hands still folded, expression steady. "No," he said quietly. "You follow them, and you just broke every single one." The cabin shifted, a tide turning. Witnesses leaned in closer. Phones streamed faster. The chant swelled again, louder, steadier. "Let him stay! Let him stay!" For the first time, it wasn't Marcus against the crew. It was Marcus, and an entire plane full of witnesses against the lie unraveling in real time. And the silence he had carried like armor was no longer just his. It belonged to everyone watching. The cabin had become a drumbeat, phones buzzing, whispers colliding, the chant swelling like a wave threatening to break. Nicole's face was flushed. Brian's smirk had vanished, and even Linda's iron grip loosened under the weight of too many witnesses. Harold still clung to authority. "This charade is over. Security, escort him out now." But Marcus raised a hand, not in protest, not in struggle, simply to still the room. The noise dimmed, the chant faltered, and for a heartbeat, the entire cabin waited. He rose slowly, smoothing the wrinkles from his white shirt, his posture steady as stone. His voice, when it came, was calm, deliberate, carrying not anger but finality. "My name is Marcus Carter, CEO, founder of Carter Global, and 25% owner of this airline." Sage. The words struck harder than any shout. Gasps tore through the rows. A woman dropped her phone, screen clattering against the floor. The teenager's live stream exploded with comments. "He owns it? No way. Replay that." Nicole's lips parted, trembling. Brian muttered, That can't be true." Marcus turned, eyes locking on him. "Then check your system. Passenger manifest. Investor registry. Or ask your CEO. Wait. You just did." The silence that followed was suffocating. Harold's face drained white, yet he forced a brittle laugh. "Ridiculous. Anyone can say they're an owner." Marcus tilted his head, unshaken. "True. But only one of us can freeze your employee credentials with a single call." He tapped his watch again. Rachel's voice, sharp and unrelenting, filled the cabin. Authentication verified. Marcus Carter, CEO and board member. Authority level. Owner override. The words weren't loud, but they thundered louder than any announcement. Passengers erupted, some gasped, some clapped, some jeered at the crew. The chant shifted, transformed into applause. Cameras caught every stunned expression, every face paling under the truth. Marcus's gaze swept the aisle, steady and unyielding. "You told me I didn't belong in first class. But let me make this clear for the record. For every camera in this room, I don't just belong here. I own here." Phone is flashed. Applause broke. Nicole staggered back. Brian froze. Linda's grip fell away completely. And for the first time since the ordeal began, the crew realized they weren't holding a passenger, they were standing against their employer. The revelation didn't just land, it detonated. Nicole stumbled back a step, her hand flying to her chest. Her polished smile had shattered into disbelief. Brian, the smirk he wore like armor, dissolved into a slack-jawed stare. His eyes darted to the manifest tablet in his hands, scrolling furiously, desperate for proof that Marcus was lying. But the screen betrayed him. Passenger list confirmed. Carter, Marcus, seat 2 amperes. Verified. Linda, the officer, released her grip as though she had touched fire. Her jaw clenched, but her authority had evaporated. She knew, even before Rachel's voice echoed through the cabin again, owner-level credentials confirmed, protocols logged, incident streaming live to Horizon board. Law. Gasps multiplied. Passengers leaned into the aisle, some applauding outright, others whispering furiously into their live streams. The teenager's phone shook as he shouted, "It's true! He just proved it, he owns part of the airline." Comments scrolled so fast they blurred. "Justice! This is history." Crew about to get fired on camera. Harold tried to speak, his voice brittle. This is a misunderstanding." But no one believed him anymore. Not the passengers. Not even his own staff. Nicole's voice cracked as she whispered, "Sir, what do we do?" Her eyes brimmed with panic, searching for guidance Harold no longer had. Mia, the trainee, straightened her back. For the first time all night, her voice was firm. "What we do is admit we were wrong. All of you saw his name in the system. You ignored it." Heads turned. Nicole's face drained. Brian's lips parted, ready to fire back, but the weight of every camera stopped him cold. From row 5, a passenger called out, "You humiliated him in front of all of us, and he owns this airline? Are you insane?" Applause broke again, this time louder. The cabin no longer belonged to Horizon's staff. It belonged to the crowd, to justice rising in real time. Harold's hands trembled as he raised them for calm. "Please, everyone, settle down." But his words were drowned out by boos. Phones zoomed in, passengers pointing, shouting, "Apologize! He deserves respect! Fire them!" Ambly. Nicole pressed against the wall, eyes glassy. Brian muttered under his breath, "We're done." Linda stood rigid, caught between training and fear, her badge suddenly meaningless. The entire crew, once so certain of their power, now looked like actors stripped of their script, fumbling on a stage where the audience had turned against them. And in the middle of it all, Marcus Carter remained calm, his silence louder than their collapse. Marcus finally rose fully, unhurried, as if the chaos around him were nothing more than turbulence he had long anticipated. His white shirt caught the cabin light, stark against the Navy uniforms that had cornered him minutes earlier. He tapped his watch once more. Calm. Precise. "Rachel," he said evenly, "initiate personnel lockdown, effective immediately." "I don't." Her voice answered, crisp and unyielding, carried through his earpiece but loud enough for the passengers nearest to hear. "Understood. Credentials terminating." 3 subjects flagged: Harold Jennings, Nicole Grant, Brian Ellis. The reaction was instant. Nicole's tablet buzzed in her hands, screen flashing red before going black. She pressed it desperately, but nothing responded. Brian's device chimed an error, then logged him out completely, access revoked. He swore under his breath, panic rising. And Harold, his badge vibrated once, then twice, before glowing scarlet. He held it up as if denial could change reality. But the message was clear, etched in bold across the screen. Terminated. Gasps exploded through the rows. A man in business class clapped once, then again, and soon the applause rolled like thunder down the cabin. Someone shouted, "Justice!" Another cried, "That's what power looks like." Nicole's knees buckled. "Please," she whispered, voice thin. "I was following orders." Marcus's gaze cut through her, steady, merciless. "You weren't following orders. You were following prejudice, and now you're following the exit." The cabin roared. Phones zoomed closer. Live stream surged. The teenager screamed into his mic, "He just fired them on the plane." Comments flooded. "Legend. Boss move. Silent revenge." Harold tried to salvage dignity, his voice trembling. "You can't do this here. Not like this." "Tweller." Marcus turned, eyes cold as steel. "You humiliated me in public. You get removed in public. That's the balance you wrote." Linda, the officer, stepped back, realizing her name hadn't been called. Her badge still glowed green. Marcus's eyes found hers. "You did your job. You let others direct your hand. Learn from this. Don't repeat it." For a moment, even she looked relieved. Then Rachel's voice chimed again, decisive. "Lockdown confirmed. Access revoked. Incident report sent to legal." The cabin erupted one last time applause. Cheers. Some passengers even standing to clap. Others shook their heads in disbelief, whispering, "I can't believe I just saw that." And at the center, Marcus Carter stood calm. The architect of justice delivered midair. The cabin was still trembling with applause when Marcus raised his hand, palm open. The sound softened, then stilled. Like an orchestra cut mid-note, every passenger leaned forward, phones suspended, waiting for what came next. Nicole's tablet lay useless at her feet. Brian sat frozen, his device locked in red. Harold clutched his badge like a man drowning with nothing to hold on to. Around them, the faces of passengers gleamed with something rare at 30,000 feet, the look of witnessing justice unfold in real time. Marcus stood in the aisle, steady, centered, voice low but carrying to the very back row. "You told me I didn't belong here. That first class wasn't for people like me. You ripped my ticket. You tried to drag me out of my seat." He paused, scanning the room, letting the silence tighten around his words. "But the truth is simple. I don't just belong here. I built here. And no uniform, no arrogance, no prejudice can erase that." Gasps, murmurs, and then applause again, rolling louder, stronger. He continued, slower now, each phrase like a blade. "You mistook silence for weakness, but silence is how justice sharpens its edge. Tonight, you didn't expose me, you exposed yourselves." Phones shook with excitement. Livestream comments surged across thousands of screens. Chills. "This man is power. Best story I've ever seen on a plane." Marcus adjusted his cuff, calm as if the storm hadn't touched him. "I don't need to shout. I don't need to fight. My existence is the answer. My presence is the proof. And my power," his eyes flicked to Harold, to Nicole, to Brian, "is the consequence you now live with." He turned slightly, scanning the rows of passengers, each face riveted. "Remember this moment, not for me, for yourselves, because one day you'll be asked who belongs. And you'll know the answer isn't written on skin or clothes or wealth. It's written on truth." The words hung like scripture. The cabin erupted once more, not chaos this time, but unity. Applause shook the air, passengers rising to their feet. Some cheered, some filmed through tears, others simply stared, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Marcus lowered himself back into seat, 2 amperes, calm, unbroken, as if nothing extraordinary had happened at all. He fastened his seatbelt, leaned back, and closed his eyes. Because for him, this wasn't victory, it was correction. And correction, delivered with silence and certainty, was the purest form of justice.